Hey everyone, Wes here from Family Gamer TV, and we're going to look into the technical side of Skylanders Trap Team, and specifically the graphics on offer. Now, Dark52 at the Dark Spyro forums managed to find some screenshots on Amazon's website, and I've been trawling around to see if we can find a couple of extra ones just to flesh this out, so we can have a comparison all the way through from the Wii up to like the Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Now, we can't be exactly specific on which platforms these come from, but I think we can get a good idea of the different generations of consoles. And here we're going to see 3 generations. So we start with this view of an Archean spaceship on the Wii, and there's not a lot of detail here, specifically if you look at the town on the right and the boulders. There's quite a lot of jagged edges. The spaceship itself, there's not much going on in terms of textures. It all looks very flat. The sky as well is kind of uninspiring. But when we move up a generation to the 360 and PlayStation 3, wow, far brighter, far more effects going on, a lot more detail, textures on the spaceship, textures on the town. The town looks wildly different. I mean, we only see a little bit on the Wii version in the corner there, but massively different, I think, to what you see on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Now, when we move up to the most recent console generation, so we're looking at Xbox One and PlayStation 4, things are not so different. Can you tell the difference? I think if you look closely you can, but specifically the real difference here, I think, is in the detail on everything that's not in focus. So on the 360 PS3 generation, you got that extra detail on the spaceship. Here, you're seeing a lot more detail visible on the background, so the town, the spaceship that you're attacking, and the boulders. So if you flick back, you see the town is quite blurry, the boulders are quite blurry. And taking it up a notch, you see far more detail, and the same with the sky as well, and the clouds. Now, if we look at our next screenshot, we're looking at a town, possibly some kind of tech building, maybe, rather than a town. And again, we're looking at this on the Wii. It looks a bit muddy. It's not very bright and colourful and inspiring. But when we take that up to the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, you see a radical difference. Wow, just pops off the screen. You can see things far more clearly. You've got shadows and textures and reflections. The sky is a whole different colour. Far more beautiful image to look at. Very impressed with what we're getting on current, well, previous generation, some may say now. Now, if we take that one step further onto the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, again, not as noticeable the differences. But if you look closely, you'll see more detail in the textures on the stones, more detail in the shadows and the reflections coming from the building. We'll flip back between, and things generally just look that little bit more detailed. They pop a little bit more, but not massively different. Some colouring differences on the pipework, but yeah, it's not a huge leap. Okay, next up we've got a duel between Chaos and a Chompy Mage. Obviously, the Chompy Mage and Chaos are both characters that you can control in Trap Team. So this is on the Wii. You can see that there's not a lot of texturing going on. Everything looks quite flat. But when we move up a level, we've immediately got a lot more detail. You can see the texture on Chaos's coat has markedly changed. Skin looks more real, more detail on the Chompy Mage and his beard and his facial hair and his clothing, and on the backgrounds and the floor as well. Quite different. But then when we move up again, I think this image really does show what the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are all about. And it might just be small details, but it's really nice. So if we look here again at the clothing specifically, There's a lot more detail to the texture, the shadowing and reflections are better. The beard on the Chompy Mage and the eyebrows, you've got more detail in the hair, and then the texture on the Chompy Puppet looks really, really good. So a definite step up there in the character design and the detail they can present. Okay, so what have we got next? Well, this time we're going to look at an image of Food Fight and Snapshot. Looking pretty good on the Wii, to be fair. You know, it does look a bit flat, a bit jaggy, but you know, the characters are well represented there. But when we move up, it all starts to change again. You start to see texture on Snapshot with his scales, which you don't really get in the Wii version. It's kind of there, but it doesn't really stand out much. But you see it way more on the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 generation, and Food Fight as well. Lots more detail, specifically in his arms and his hair. The Chompies too are now starting to show some kind of reflections, and we've got shadows on the ground, which are far more detailed than they were in the Wii version. But can we see the difference when we step up to Xbox One and PlayStation 4? I'm gonna flick between them again. Can you tell the difference? It's hard to see it yet again, but if you look at the backgrounds here, on this generation you're seeing a lot more detail in the wood and the stone, and it just pops that little bit more. It's less blurry, ground textures as well, showing more going on there, little bits of stone that aren't there in the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 versions. More detail on the scales of Snapshot. And I think as well, Food Fight's gun has better shading, better texturing for the metal. And the Chompies as well seem to have a little bit of skin texture which they didn't have before. So we got one last image for you, and this is Food Fight using one of his abilities to roll around on a tomato. And this is on the Wii. Again, the personality of the characters still shines through, even with Food Fight and the trolls on the Wii here. Yes, obviously we're lacking these high-resolution textures and better shading and reflection, but it still looks good and looks perfectly acceptable if that's your console of choice. I don't think you're going to lose a massive amount in terms of the graphical quality, because really, Skylanders is all about the personality of the characters, and that will shine through regardless. But you can see here again, very flat. We move up and we start to get more detail, specifically on the leaves of this tree and the bark. And then the trolls themselves, far clearer. And again, we've got Food Fight's detailing on his arms and his hair. Now we move that up to the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and thanks to videogamer.com for this screenshot. And again, it's just brighter, pops a bit more vibrant, a little bit better shadowing and detail, but this screenshot doesn't really show it off to the max. Now if you look in the far right hand corner at the wall, you can see the orangey brick coloured stones on top of the wall have quite a bit of texture detail, which they lose in the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 version. So it's very much a small difference. So there we go. That's our look at the comparison of graphics across the Wii, the 360, PlayStation 3, Wii U, all the way up to the Xbox One, PlayStation 4. Which platform are you going to get it on? Well, why don't you let us know? Is this going to make you upgrade? Do you think Skylanders Trap Team is the game to take you into the current generation or the next generation, depending on how you look at it? It might be for me, but the detailing change between the 360 and the Xbox One, for example, it's not massive. Maybe if you want to go from a Wii all the way up to a PlayStation 4, something like that, maybe the jump is worth it. Well, let us know what you think. Drop us a comment. And as always, stay tuned to Family Gamer TV for more Skylanders Trap Team news.